Welcome in, folks, to another great episode of I've Got a Theory. I'm your host, Henish, and I'm excited to have on Ashley Hann join us, who's also a local San Diego business person, entrepreneur, successful thought leader, et cetera, et cetera. You know, a lot of great content online. You've got a huge long list of accomplishments and achievements, and you're killing it. Is kind of the short end of it, huh?
Oh, thank you. I'm in my fire. I am in my purpose, and that's all I can ask for.
Yeah, and it kind of radiates from you, even through Zoom. I can kind of feel that you've got this life that you've got filled with purpose. You have an understanding, but it wasn't always like that. You've come a long way to get to where you're at, where you can smile with not just your mouth, but with your eyes as well, and people know that you mean it.
That's good. Yes, you're absolutely right. My biggest hurdle for all of my youth and my adolescence was authenticity. So like what you just said, you know, not just smiling with your mouth, but like with your whole soul.
Yeah.
And actually meaning it. That was my whole hurdle that it's actually like in my personal contract, authenticity, because it really was a pain point of mine. I didn't know how to be myself because I rejected myself for so long.
And okay, and we'll get into your theory, but you know, a lot of times I feel like it comes down to what makes people happy. And for a lot of people, it's roughly the same things, right? It's living that purpose-driven life, feeling like you're contributing, having something to wake up to and accomplish, or setting goals for yourself. And you're really a thought leader and coach and expert in those fields. Is that kind of, am I getting that right?
Yeah. So I'm really twofold, because I have the first part of me is very, you know, my background in terms of the doing. Like I studied in college, and my first jobs, it was all in marketing and branding, right? So that's still what I do. It's just evolved as I've evolved. Like right now I only serve conscious leaders who are up to the same impact that I'm creating, because that's how I can increase that ripple effect. So that's the first piece. And the second piece is, I coach women through, you know, not just with business, but that deep internal stuff. And a lot of my women, when they come to me, they are struggling with, of course, the same things that I used to struggle with. And I know that those conversations so well that I'm able to relate and have them feel heard and seen and valued for where they're at, and help to support them and take them to where they want to go.
Wow. Okay. So with that, tell me your theory.
So my theory is that if we're talking about authenticity, because I have many theories, but this is the one that's coming alive for me right now, is when we are authentic and allow ourselves to truly be seen as we are, holding completely the 360 view of us, that we become magnetic.
Okay.
And what I mean by magnetic is we become polarizing, right? So we're going to be so much more attractive to those people who are our vibe, who are our tribe, our people who align with us. And we're going to be super fulfilled and happy because of that. And this is the part most people have a hard time with, we also repel like a magnet. Yep. You know, we're going to repel people. There's going to be people who are like, no, I don't agree with that. Like, you're this, you're that. And the whole point, right, is to be so confident and rooted in who you are that doesn't faze you. Right. And that's
so
truly,
I mean, mostly it's going to be, if you're doing it the right way, the people that are repelled from your magnetism would ideally be haters, right? They're pretty much people that would be just the kind of like hey, my life isn't going well, so I'm going to spend my energy hating on other people's lives.
Yeah. And there's something about you that is having them feel some type of way about themselves. Right. So there's something we're triggering them and their own wounds in some way. And they're then coming at us as the enemy. So, yeah.
So, I mean, with that, I mean, you know, just to kind of get that off of the plate, we really shouldn't spend any time worrying about the haters.
Yeah. I appreciate them. You know what? For me, it's like when they come my way, I don't let my energy go there. I'm like thankful. I'm like, that means I'm showing up big. That means I'm being authentic. That means I'm magnetic. And that's it. And then I keep moving. That's it.
Do you think that's controversial, or is it, you think it's not an appropriate goal to be like, I want everyone to like me? And And I want to win over everyone. I need to be 100% with everyone that I come across.
When you win over you try to win over everyone, you win over no one. Like
Yeah.
truly, it's it's such a lose game. Like it's losing both sides, because you're not ever going to be your authentic self because you're going to be so focused on being a chameleon to what you think other people are going to like. I mean, I know that game. I played that game. It was exhausting. I was depressed. So that game is a lose-lose game, and it's completely dissatisfying and exhausting to play. So yeah, no people pleasing.
So talk to me a little bit about authenticity, and how does one discover that? Do you always need help? Are there books? What are some exercises we can do to uncover authenticity in ourselves?
Yeah. And it's been such a buzzword, authenticity. People are throwing it out, authentic. And, for every person, it can mean something different. All I know is, for me, what it means, let's just take like a micro moment, because it's really all the micro moments that add up. Let's say that I'm sitting, and this literally just happened actually, so this is super fresh. As I'm sitting with a few girlfriends, and one of them decides to start gossiping, which is against my values, right? That's like an absolute hard no boundary of mine. It's a non-negotiable. So in that moment, I have choices. We all have choices in these moments. And the people pleaser, the inauthentic way that I could show up in that moment would be to participate. Oh yeah, I heard that about her too. And start participating in the conversation, right? So that
Sure.
person doesn't feel alone. Like we're pleasing, right? And in the moment, that's having me be inauthentic to my truth and my values. Now, the authentic stand would be, hey, you know what? This isn't my vibe right now. I'm gonna go hang over there, right? Like gossiping just isn't my thing. I love you. Gossiping isn't my thing. I'm gonna go hang over there.
Yeah.
Right. So that takes courage though, right? Because in that moment, they're going to be like, oh, what?
Well, is that how that went down? Is that how that went down? Did you step away?
No, because luckily the woman that I said that to, she's in the training with me. We're both in a training right now. So it went over really well. I would say that that's a rare case though. I would say expect that there's going to be a little bit of like, huh? Because they're not used to that. So that's why I say, like, it takes courage, and it takes you being willing to stick through the discomfort, to choose discomfort in some cases.
Well, yeah, because at that point, like the less confident person would be worried, hey, next time they're chatting without you, you're going to be the center of their gossip.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Unless you can get them to that next higher vibration where it says, hey, this isn't the best use of our energy to talk bad about someone. Let's talk about something more productive for us collectively, for the environment, for the planet, whatever it could be, right? Because there's better things to chat about and discuss with people when you've got that kind of brain trust put together. There's so much better ways you can spend your time than gossiping. True or false?
Mm-hmm. Totally. There's that quote. It's like I'm going to probably butcher this. It's like small minds talk about people, big minds talk about ideas, something like that.
Yeah,
but
for
it's
sure.
so
I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's everything. That's the kind of like, that is the dinner conversation I want. Like, I just had a girls' retreat weekend at my house, and those were our dinner conversations. They were just deep and meaningful and profound. And like, people were we cried, it was just, that's what I live for.
So how can you, did you like have an agenda of some sort? How'd you curate that conversation to go like that instead of, diverting to, all right, let's drink and play, like bachelor drinking game or something like that? I don't know.
Oh, that's such a good question. So thank you for asking that, because it was funny. I'm Ashley, is also my friend Ashley, who we're in it together with one of our mutual friends sitting with us. And we just started asking her about her life, like what's going on, right? And she started to tell us, and this is the key. I just pulled my cord. This is the key. They'll talk about it, and then you'll notice that they'll glaze over something. You want to be courageous in that moment to say, well, why do you think that is? Or what, ask deeper questions. So the key is ask deep questions so that you can get deep answers. Because I will tell you, there's some questions that Ashley did, like, she was like blowing me away over here. I was like, you could tell it took courage for her to ask those questions. Because what if my girlfriend, I'll just say her name Julie, because she wouldn't care about this, but what if she was like, how dare you ask me that? Like, I'm not ready to answer that. And at the end, it was funny because Ashley came to me and she said, was I too aggressive with my questions? Like, I'm worried. And we went over to her and actually confronted it and said, was that too, like, did we take a step too far? Did we cross the line? And she immediately just started bawling and crying. And we all held her. All of us held her as she cried. And I was crying with her because I felt her emotion. And like, what a beautiful moment to then expose yourself in that way and still feel seen and heard and have that moment of release alongside women that you trust. It was so powerful.
So Ashley, this isn't something that happens overnight. How did you learn how to become authentic? How did you learn to dive into people's deeper meanings in what they discuss and what they really want to talk about, and create that kind of healing space? What was the transformation that happened, and how are you still getting better at this?
Yeah. So I always, it's in my book. I'm like very attribute, like they are the catalyst for who I am today and all the things I've accomplished. Ascension Leadership Academy, I took a 4-month-long training and I'm actually staffing for it right now. I go back regularly and volunteer because I believe in it so much. It truly was the catalyst for my transformation. So that was where I learned a lot, like a lot. It was everything for me. And to this day, well, I'm back in staffing right now. My boyfriend, Gerard, is going through it. And so I wanted to be there for him and support in the container. So I get nothing out of it aside from being a part of the freaking amazing experience. And then I also have coaches. So I typically, one area of my life that I am not an expert in, and I'm not a coach on, is because I'm not an expert in, is love and relationships. I've went through some stuff. So I always typically have a love and relationship coach. So I just finished my last go round. And so now I'm hiring a new woman coming in the next couple months. So
tell me about this leadership class, the Ascension, because I saw that on your website, but I've never heard of it before. Tell me a little bit more about that. Is this open for regular people, or do you have to be a special person?
Well, we're all special people, but no, it's open. It's open. For anyone who's ready to take themselves on, basically. And to be honest, even if you're not ready, because I wasn't when I went in, but like it's time. Like you're like, I know it's time. And so that was me. I was actually in a totally different place when I started. That was like 4 or 5 years ago. But it's a very experiential training. That's what I refer to it as, because it's not like, you go to a seminar and you sit down and you're just like listening and absorbing, taking notes. And it's not like that. It's very experiential, and you're constantly immersed in very triggering situations that bring out of you what actually happens when you are walking about in real life. So it's like a training room for the soul. It's like a training room for life. It's crazy.
Wow.
Super amazing.
What are some key takeaways? How would you sell someone on going to something like that? I'm assuming you're saying people should go to something like that, because one of the things we chatted about is that you think people should have coaches or trainers on different aspects of their lives. Is that kind of accurate?
Yeah. Because basically, it's not about should or shouldn't really, because I don't want to should on everyone. Everyone has their own path. My belief is that doing it on your own, like the self studying, like listening to the podcast, doing that's great. Like I do it, reading books, and you can do those things on your own and get to point B, like where you want to go. Absolutely. Many people have done that. I just look at coaching and investing in yourself and joining programs, things like that, as like the jet plane, right? So if you think of like you doing it on your own, it's like the rowboat to get from here to like from California to Japan. It's going to be like quite a ride. It might get bumpy and you might go the wrong way a few times, but eventually you can get there, versus a jet plane of you like literally just, and so that's for me. Like I know I probably could have arrived to where I am today. I just did it so much quicker because I had literally loads of support and tools at my fingertips for me to use.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
I mean, how many, to kind of dive into it, how many different coaches do you employ, and for what different aspects of your life? Because you mentioned your love coach.
Yes, I have a love coach. I get to have a love coach because that's one of my things that I know I constantly get to grow in. Even when I feel I'm good, there's always a next level to the woman that I get to be in my relationships, not just with Gerard, but with my friendships as well. So it's everywhere. And business coaching. So I always have a business coach. Right now I'm working with the lovely, amazing Laura Wright. And she's been supporting me. Before that, I worked with Ed Rush, who was pivotal. That was the man who supported me in first making six figures, which was amazing while I was traveling the world and working maybe 3 hours a day. Like, it was insane. So yeah, I have typically business coaches. I'm typically part of at least like a mastermind or some type of group work. Like right now I'm doing a Ascension Leadership Academy again as staff, which is basically like going through it as a student again at a higher level. And then a personal coach, typically love relationship coach.
Wow. Okay. And so, you've got me kind of interested in this Essential Leadership Academy because I've done a lot of those kind of classes, and I've been to Tony Robbins, and I've been to different things like that. And I've done some higher level Tony Robbins stuff too. So I love it. I always feel great coming away from it. I feel like I get a bunch of ideas. I've even met clients at a lot of these things. So they're always good. And you're in San Diego as well, right?
I just
you're not. Where are you now?
North Carolina. Well, right now I'm in Tulum, but I live in North Carolina now.
Oh, wow. Okay. Are you on a vacation or what's going on?
Yeah, I am here with my honey, and I'm supporting him with his retreat this week or next week.
So where are these leadership academies? Are they in person? Are they Zoom? Can how immersive are they?
Both. So I haven't staffed a Zoom one, but I have heard from my friends who have staffed, because literally I've made all my friendships like from this community, because it's just impossible not to. You create sisters and brothers. They have staffed and said that the virtual is mind-blowing, that it can be almost more powerful than the in-person. I'm biased, and I'm going to say that's hard for me to believe, and I haven't done it yet, so I can't speak to it.
Right.
I'm doing the in-person right now, which is in Austin, Texas.
Oh, cool. And then it kind of travels around, I'm assuming?
Yeah, they had them in San Diego, but I believe San Diego, because of COVID, I don't know, they can't do it now. So they're doing that one virtually, but right now they have this training all over. So Ascension Leadership is a company that does these trainings. They're all over the US. I don't know the names of all of them. Ascension Leadership is the one that I did.
Got it. So let's go back to your theory. So being authentic to yourself creates magnetism that attracts people.
Yes.
So can you give me another recent example of where you were authentic, I guess, publicly or maybe in your business, and then how that worked to attract or magnetically?
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. This is the one that came to mind. Is I had a post that I basically was very uncomfortable. Like, I felt super uncomfortable about sharing, but I had this like come through on I think I was meditating, or I don't know what it was, but it came through. This was a while back. And I wanted to share secrets that I had been keeping. I wanted to just come clean to my audience and just share like, hey, these are the skeletons in my closet. Like, I'm releasing them because that stuff doesn't define me. How I chose to respond to those things is what defines me. And that's where I'm at today. So just like owning my darkness. And I did it. And I did this post, and I, to my whole tribe publicly, owning that I used to steal, that I, had an affair with a married man once, that I'm talking the most shameful things that like I couldn't even say out loud before. And I was like, you know what? Boom, I'm owning it all, because I know that that's where my freedom lies. And so I did that post, and I literally started with like, some of you may unfollow me after reading this, some of you might not, lose respect for me, and that's okay. I know my why in doing this. It was for me to be authentic, for me to be raw and vulnerable and own it all. And that ended up being such an impactful post. It's still to this date one of my top performing. Like, I got an influx of messages. It's like people think that they're alone in their shame. You know what I'm saying? Like, when people go through darkness, they literally feel like they're alone. Like they're
the only person that feels that way.
Yeah. And like that no one else could have ever done something like this. And so when they read that, it was almost like it gave them permission to own their stuff so that they could be free from the shackles of shame too. Yeah. It was really powerful.
Well, I mean, I think that's a key thing to get out, because I think if you are, having depression or sad, you feel like you're the only one that has these problems. And when someone like you, that's basically a public figure, says, hey, I'm also flawed, I've also made mistakes, There's things that have happened in my past that I'm not proud of, but look where I am today, right? Like I've come out of it. I'm on the other end of it, and I've learned from that, right? And that's kind of the message that you're sharing, right? That's why you want to tell people, hey, I'm not perfect. I've done mistakes, and I'm probably still making mistakes, but at least I'm trying to be authentic about it and acknowledging it, and then getting through it. And you can too.
Yeah, every day. I mean, yesterday I literally was curled up on a ball on the bed here in Tulum, just crying my eyes out like a little 12-year-old girl, giving myself permission to do that because I got lost. And that's one of my biggest fears, is being alone and being lost in a foreign place where I'm like stuck. So I had that happen yesterday, and working through that. And it's like, could I have prevented what happened yesterday? Absolutely. There's things like I take full ownership and responsibility of the results that occurred, and it's like, we have those moments. So today I was planning on posting that and saying like, hey, it's not all sunshine and butterflies over here in Tulum. This is what happened yesterday, y'all. Like, let's keep it real.
Yeah. Okay. So I might have missed that. How did you get stuck? You said you were like,
yeah. I have my dog with me, and they changed. I don't know what happened. I have been here with Tucker before, but no cabs would take me. So no cabs would pick me up. So I was stuck. And so I literally had 4 cabs in a row, literally go like this, like X me out, and not even roll down their window to talk to me. It was like, I felt so rejected in that moment. You know what I mean? Like there was something, like all those familiar feelings of childhood, of that like rejection feeling came up for me. And it was like, it was emotional for me.
yeah,
And
makes sense. Yeah.
yeah. And then I finally got this random woman to drop me in a busy intersection where there were more cabs, hoping I'd have a better chance there. And then she dropped me there, and it was just like, then I realized I don't know where I am. And it was just like a whole ordeal that lasted like 2 hours yesterday. My boyfriend finally came and saved me. He was in ceremony, so it took him a while to get to me. So, but yeah, that's what happened.
Well, I mean, it's hard not to feel stressed when you're in someplace like that. And I don't know how well your Spanish is, or good your Spanish is.
None. No
Yeah.
Spanish.
So that makes it a little bit more difficult, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Well, Ashley, I mean, it's that I really appreciate you sharing and spending some time with me on that. But I can't agree with you more that being authentic, and it's something that I think that everyone still struggles to uncover and discover and figure out what they want to share to create that audience and to be that attractor or that magnet for like-minded people that energetically feel the same and can be authentic as well. And it's just such a good message to share. It's hard to put it in practice, and it's easier to say, right? So what are some kind of so let's kind of cap off with, all right, I agree with you. What can I do to get better at it?
Yeah. Well, the first step is always getting clear, illuminating what is true for you, and getting rid of all the judgment. You'll notice when it comes up, right? I shouldn't, like, even when it comes to your views on dating, like, because we were just talking about that earlier, every part about you, all of your beliefs and your values, just getting super clear on them. And that's the first start, because if you're not clear about what you stand for and what you value, then you're not going to be able to be authentic. And a lot of us are, to be honest, this is very common, because a lot of us are not, there's some parts about ourselves and our beliefs, values that we have judgment about. And so then we resist it. And then that has us be super unclear about how we get to show up in the world and like who we be. So that would be the first step. Like, write it out. Like, what are your values? What is true for you? Like, what are your beliefs? And you can take a great way to approach this is by taking the 8 life areas. Because if you're like, well, where do I start? There's so many things.
Yeah, you have categories, right?
Yeah, so many categories. So just take the 8 life areas. You can just Google 8 life areas. It'll pop up, and that'd be a good place to start. Go through each one. What are my beliefs about this? Also, what's cool is you'll notice some stuff come up that you're like, ooh, that's interesting. That came up. Do I still align with this? Like, is this a limiting belief? Right? So it's very interesting. That process of illumination is very important. So I would never skip over that, and from once you illuminate, that's from that space, my next phase is ignite. So ignite meaning, like, now that you're clear about all of these things, how can you ignite these values in your life? So in other words, action, how can you action these values? How can you communicate these values in your relationships, and actually start living these values and these beliefs in who you are? But it first takes clarity. You're not going to be able to do that until you find those sparks that you can light.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. I mean, those are very specific. Obviously, it could take some hand holding. Or you said you have a book that kind of outlines this as well.
My book, Magnetic Confidence, Attract the Results, Relationship, and Life That You Want. The whole thing is about magnetism and authenticity. So I share a few tools in there in my story. But yes, you're absolutely right. It takes the big thing, and this is also in my personal contract, is courage, because you're going to have to be willing to be courageous enough to choose discomfort and trust that growth happens outside of our comfort zones.
Yep.
Fact. So when you start to feel uncomfortable, you know what that feels like. Like when you're like, ugh, lean into that, because there's growth there for you.
For sure.
Instead of running away, which we typically normally will do, right?
Yeah.
Lean into it.
Yeah, I mean, all good advice. I mean, and you've got so much more. Obviously, people can find you online at AshleyHann with 2Ns.com. And you've got all your links to all your different companies and resources that you provide. Ashley, really appreciate you spending some time with me and sharing some words of wisdom that you've accrued. And it's always a journey, right? You're not done.
Transformation is not a destination. It is a choice we make every day. It's a lifestyle.
You're not done.
Absolutely.
There's a lot more to do.
Nope.
And I see that you're doing all kinds of big things. I appreciate you spending some time with me and sharing with some of our viewers these really excellent tips on how to be authentic and how to create that magnetism that, whether you like it or not, I mean, it's important, right? Whether you're not in a sales business or you have your own business, it doesn't matter. I mean, you still want that in some aspects of your life, if not every aspect of your life, because then it gives you the choice. It gives you the choice of how you spend your day, who you work with, who you get to interact with, and how you spend your time, which is probably the most valuable thing. How you feel, right? And how you can reflect and say, yeah, I felt good about that, and I did something that was worthwhile. And feel accomplished, right? I mean, so it gives you all of that. And that's why you're smiling with your eyes and your face and your whole soul, and not just, oh, I'm putting on this look because I'm doing this media thing.
Yep. Absolutely.
Well, awesome. Ashley, any other last thoughts? Otherwise, I'm going to cap us off here.
That was so good. Thank you for asking such great questions. And, to all the listeners, do you, and really trust that you are enough, and that when you actually embrace and own all of you, like I'm talking the pretty, the ugly, the dark, the light, that is where your freedom lies. That's where your fulfillment lies. Like that's what's going to ultimately feel the best in your body.
That's awesome. And don't be a hater. No one likes that.
Hate's going to hate.
Don't be a hater. Thank you so much for joining me. Another great episode of I've Got a Theory. Please like, comment, subscribe. Ashley Hann, thanks for joining me today. And we'll catch you in the next one.
Thank you.